Hello, this is CJ Mack. I'm extremely ill right now, have been for years, so please bear with me. I'm 63, now considered elderly, on disability, living in poverty on a poverty level income. Been on disability for 25 years. Here's just one of the predicaments I presently find myself in. I can't stay where I'm living, and I can't move. I currently live in what's supposed to be income-based housing, but I'm paying over 50% of my disability on rent. The property management company doesn't follow the rules or its own lease. I've lived here over 8 years. I've wanted to move for years because the property management company is corrupt and non-responsive. After many requests, they refused to give me the property owner's name and contact information, which is illegal. Also, they refused to enforce the lease against my upstairs neighbors who've been criminally harassing me and breaking the lease for over 7 years. Odd how HUD doesn't require landlords to enforce their own leases. Neither does the state or the cops. The cops and the landlord won't even protect me from the criminal threats and harassment of my neighbors. But my poverty prevented me from moving. I couldn't afford it. But my mom just passed away and left me a small inheritance. So now, finally, I can afford to move. But now there's no place to move to. And because of this inheritance, I now may not qualify for affordable housing, income-based housing, because my assets might be too high, and I don't qualify for the private sector housing because my monthly income is too low. This is called a catch-22. It's when you're offered two choices, but neither choice applies. By definition, it's a dilemma or difficult circumstance from which there is no escape because of mutually conflicting or dependent conditions. My life has been ruled by catch-22s for decades now. And one of the problems I face is that I qualify for Section 8, affordable housing and income-based housing, for over 25 years. But I can't get on the lists. The lists are perpetually closed. There's Section 8, affordable housing, and income-based housing. I can't even find out the difference between all these programs. Why are there three different programs that do the same thing? Did you know you can qualify for some form of public housing even as a single person? You make as much as $42,000 a year? What? That's insane. That's not poverty level income. This is where all this low income housing is going, to the middle class. Meanwhile, the poor are being rejected across the country. Since when does someone who makes 42 grand a year need help with rent? This is why the poor continue to have no access to affordable housing. The market is flooded with people who don't need it. If the middle class are now incapable of paying for housing on their own, then you know there's a hell of a problem in this country that isn't being addressed. And that problem is the insane level of American property values being driven up largely by corporate property management companies. Fuel prices aren't the main cause of inflation. Property values are. More than anything else, property values, the pursuit of ever-increasing profits, and pure unmitigated greed and apathy are the causes of inflation. We've been suffering from hyperinflation for 40 years, since the Reagan administration, and the economists refuse to recognize it. I wonder why. Now, my inheritance is far less than 42 grand. So does my small inheritance count as income, or assets. If it counts as income, then I still qualify. But if it counts as assets, then I have no idea if I qualify or not. No one will tell me. Regardless, I still live on poverty level income, and my inheritance was intended for emergencies and retirement, and it won't last long in any case. I can't get any information on the asset qualifications for affordable housing. I don't know if I qualify for income-based housing or not. My income is still far below the poverty line, and I can't get answers to my questions. HUD doesn't enforce its programs. It's been privatized. It's handed over its responsibilities and obligations to private corporations who are supposed to share and disseminate information and counseling to the public. In my area, the corporation is called NID Housing Counseling. They refuse to answer my questions unless I fill out a form detailing my personal information to them first. This is illegal. No one has a right to force you to reveal personal information just to get public information. I have a right to know what my rights and responsibilities are, period. I also have a right to any information regarding government programs and laws. You don't have to fill out forms for that. You don't have to pay money for that information. It is supposed to be available to anybody at any time. I've lived in affordable housing now for over 8 years, and it's time to move. But I'm being denied my right to do so because all the income-based housing in a radius of 500 miles are booked and have waiting lists that are 3 to 8 years long. But all that is irrelevant because I can't get on any of the lists. I can't even get on the list to get on the lists. So I looked for rentals on the private market, and they won't rent to me because my income is too low. No one will rent to me. These property management companies are taking over the rental industry and driving up prices and helping to create this housing shortage. A single company can monopolize entire rental markets in numerous cities and towns. They now demand renters prove they can make 3 times the rent in income. I've been renting for over 45 years. I never needed 3 times the rent in income to qualify for a lease or pay my rent. These profiteers are driving up housing costs and putting ridiculous demands on renters. What's an act called that raises prices during an emergency? It's called profiteering, and it's illegal. But these property management companies have been profiteering for decades, and certainly now during the COVID pandemic. But no one's stopping them. These profiteering companies don't have a right to rule us. They don't have the authority to dictate public policy. Corporate rules and policies aren't laws. They have no legal jurisdiction over any consumer or renter. I've lived in California for 25 years now and lived in 3 separate apartment complexes. All 3 apartment management companies have broken their leases and committed crimes against me. One predated a rent increase out of pure spite. The second extorted 50 grand from me and my parents. And the current one illegally raises my rent and refuses to protect me from predatory neighbors. And they refuse to enforce the lease. Remember, I'm 63, on disability, living on a poverty level income. Been on disability for 25 years. I qualify for affordable housing based upon all 3 of these categories: elderly, disabled, and poor. But the private sector discriminates against me because I'm poor, and affordable housing discriminates against me because they won't give me information or protect me from predatory property management companies who break their own leases, drive up property values, and they won't protect me from privatized counseling companies who refuse to give out information. Public information. I've never been evicted or even paid my rent late, not once in 45 years. And I have nothing to show for it but misery and stress that actually intensifies my many disabilities. I've played by the rules, and this is the result. I'm being denied housing, although I can pay rent. I'm becoming homeless, although I can pay rent. And my rights are denied throughout the country. My last predicament concerning this issue is I don't want to move to a red state or a blue state. There's no place in this country where I feel welcome or safe. This is what the United States has become. It refuses to provide homes or security for citizens who can pay. Elderly, disabled citizens living in poverty, but who can still pay rent, aren't secure in this country. That makes no sense. It's utterly insane. And this is just one of the predicaments I find myself in today. Poverty and smoking, either pot or tobacco, are the two legal excuses still being used to continue to discriminate against people. I need help. Millions of others need help. And we're being abused, neglected, and marginalized by our own government and the corporate private sector. Why? Because we're poor. We can't defend ourselves. A home, a shelter, is a human right. I think it's damn time our greedy, apathetic, and cruel ruling elite recognizes this fact.